I'm an addict named Barry. Whew. Grateful to be clean. All right, so I've got the honor and privilege to introduce Jerry S. from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Okay? That's about a 12-hour car ride. And the reason I say that, because I'm trying to tell you what kind of recovering addict Jerry is. Because he could have flew here. But he says, no, we got to go pick up Barry first. I first met Jerry July the 22nd, 2006 in Grenada, Mississippi at the second annual Delta Area Convention, which is something very similar to this. Now, I've been on a 12-year run. I got right at 6 months, and I see this guy walk in with all this LSU stuff on, right? And that just threw me off. But what I remember about him is he smiled a lot, and he laughed at everything. Because everything's just not that serious. Okay? Now, fast forward. 2013, my second sponsor dies. Okay? Now, I haven't even had time to grieve or mourn that loss, but during that same day, I called Jerry. See, because sponsorship, like I haven't been without one since I've been in Narcotics Anonymous, and I didn't want to go one day without one. So I called him on that day and said, Jerry, would you sponsor me? No, I said, Jerry, I need somebody to work these steps with. See, I come through the back door. And he says, I'm your guy. Now, through this, he's a great teacher. Okay? He's going to tell you a story, but he is ex-military, so I have got some cease and desist along the way. Because sometimes I just need someone to tell me, stop what you're doing, not like we'll take a suggestion. Like, that's like really, that's directions, like stop, knucklehead. But he teaches me things. Because I'm going to give you an example of what this man means to my recovery and many other people's recovery. So I was calling him pretty regular. In this one particular week, I didn't think I called him that week. It's kind of like, I haven't never called a sponsor over 7 days since I've been clean. But it was somewhere around that 6-day mark. Jerry calls me, he says, I was just checking on you. And here's what he told me. He says, why did you stop doing what was working for both of us? See, that didn't occur to me that I'm helping him. That went over my head. And every time we talk, he's going to always ask me about how you doing with your step, how you doing with your school. And I'm not working on the school or the step, and I'm hoping he won't ask me that. Because I want to hurry, I hope he don't ask that so we can hurry up and hang up. Because I don't want to tell him I'm not doing nothing. That's how much he means to me. So, and thank our friends from North Carolina coming up today too for this event to hear Jerry speak. So it's an honor and a privilege to introduce a predecessor, like someone who's paved the way, right? So people like us can just come in. Like they've done so much work. We just waltz in a meeting now, and it's everything set up and ready to go. But it was guys like him who kept the door open long enough for all these other groups to start sprouting. I'm not going to tell you it's clean time. He can do all that. So right now I'm going to give you Jerry S. from Baton Rouge.
I'm Jerry, and I'm an addict. And thank you, Barry, for that introduction. I would hope that somebody like Barry is around to write the obituary. That sounds pretty good. Well, I want to thank the convention committee here for a tremendous job. We've enjoyed it since we've been here. And the other thing is for taking the time to call me. Michelle called me some time ago and asked me if I would come up and share my experience, strength, and hope at this convention. And of course, you know, the guys in my line, we have been taught that when you're asked, you do what you can do. So of course I said yes, and we've been preparing for that ever since. And you know, there's something about Narcotics Anonymous that when I showed up here, of course it was the last house on the block. I mean, I'd been everywhere else you could go. But even more than that, you guys told me something that made this program interesting to me. You said that night when the meeting was over, you said, keep coming back. And I hadn't heard that for a long time. Now, there were a lot of places I had been taken back to against my will. But you guys voluntarily said, keep coming back, because we want to get to know you and we want to give you a piece of what we have. And for that, I will be eternally grateful. You know, I could, we were driving up here from Louisiana. We started out Thursday, Thursday in LaPlace, around LaPlace, Louisiana, outside New Orleans. And we got on the interstate and we drove over to Mississippi, to Oxford, to visit with Barry and some of the guys, and went to the meetings in Oxford that night. And then we came on over. And the thing that we can do today that I couldn't do prior to getting here, a bunch of guys get in the car and make a road trip. And we didn't do anything crazy. Like, we talked about it, but we never did detour. I mean, it's God. So the conversation came up every time we passed one of those places, but we decided that we wouldn't do it. We'd come on up here in spite of it. We had one guy who was sitting in the back that LP was his initials. He said, man, we got to stop. No, but we couldn't. And it's only true, when you came into this program, when I came into this program, my value system was different. And a lot of things that were okay then are not okay today. So when I give you my word and I say that we're going to get in the car, we're going to go to Anderson, South Carolina, that's what we mean. We're going to do that. All right? And we don't have to stop and wonder if we got enough of this or enough of that. If we got enough gas in the car, we'll make it. So that's what we did. We came on up. My story, you know, I mean, I'll give you some of the bits and pieces here and there, but more so than my usual years, I'd like to talk a lot today about my recovery years. I'll tell you why, because, well, my recovery date, okay, you can see I'm in the winter of my years. I've been around here a little bit. I got clean in April 14, 1983. Okay. Now, that equals 34 years for me that we've been coming around here. And we just celebrated that recently at my home group. So God has been awfully good to me. I can tell you they've been awfully good to me. I don't know. I don't think that when I was a little kid and you're in class and they say, what you gonna be when you grow up? I don't think anybody in my class, including me, said I would be a junkie. That's what I want to be. But it turned out that way for me. And as I look back on all the things that happened to get me here, God uses people in different ways to do different things. Is one of the conclusions I came to. When I was a kid, I'd say from 13 to 18, I was a preacher. And I used to go around to tent revivals and preach. My parents would take me to different revival meetings, and I would preach, and people would come to the altar and get baptized. And I did that for, I think, 5 years, 13 to 18. And we went all over, pretty much all over the South or Southwest and some of the Southeast doing that. I finished high school and my life was to change. Not necessarily for something I planned, but when I was 18, we came home one day from playing pickup basketball. And my mom said, remember, you went down to selective service and you had a physical. You got a letter from selective service today. This is 1969. And I said, okay. And I opened the letter and it said, greetings from the President of the United States. What the hell do he want from me? He said, you have been selected by your friends and neighbors to serve in the United States Armed Forces. That's a draft notice. And I said, let me get in the neighborhood and find out which one of my friends and neighbors selected me. And they told me that this Army bullshit, that we did not select you. And I like at that time, and the draft was going on. If you were 18, you had to register. They gave you a physical, and if you qualified, they would draft you. If you were physically able to do military service, they would draft you. No questions asked, they would draft you. And I got drafted, and I guess 2, 3 weeks, a month later, whatever it was, I had to report for duty. And I went in the Army. Now you gotta remember, I tell you, I was a preacher up until that time. I'd never used, never considered using. Using was not anywhere in the family. I didn't know anybody who used. I went from preaching to school and back to preaching every night. That was my life. I got in the Army, and I did all my training, basic training, jump school, and I got my orders for Vietnam. That was it. You're going over. And the thing about going to war, what makes that such a tragic event, is that the night before you go, the family gets together. And they all want to say, keep your head down, take it easy, try to come back in one piece. And my family had difficulty telling people they love each other. So it was hard for them to tell me goodbye that night. I remember that. But anyway, after all that, you fly out, you go over, you land in Vietnam, and for me, now this is just for me and my experience there, I won't stay in Vietnam long because that was a tragic experience for me. But anyway, I got introduced to the substance that I fell in love with shortly after I was in the country. And I think the guy who gave it to me, that's the funny thing about the way addiction got started in my life. The guy who gave it to me meant to help me. He gave it to me. He said, I'm going to help you cope with war, help you cope with the tragedy of Vietnam. And he gave it to me, and I used it. The drug itself gave me a warning that this is going to be trouble. My eyes watered, and my nose got hurt, and my head got big, and I think my butthole puckered up. Everything happened to me that night. This thing was telling me, don't take it, don't do it, please don't do it. And I was sick and throwing up. And as soon as I got back on my feet, I ran to the guy who gave it to me, and I said, do you have any more? That was the signal that trouble was ahead. I didn't see it, did not see it. And you only had to stay in Nam a year. That's the longest year of your life, but you had to stay a year. And then if you survive, you come home. They told me my year was up. I'm a machine gunner in Vietnam. That was my job. I carried machine guns around and shoot up on patrol. I told the guy, my sergeant, I said, Sergeant, I can't leave. I need to extend for another 2. He said, man, they're killing 100 people a week up here where we at. I said, I gotta stay. He said, I know. I was hooked up. He was hooked up, that's why he was on his second tour. That's why he knew. And he told me, he said, okay, I'll extend you. And he did. God intervenes in crazy people's lives. I've been in country another 4 months, I guess. And I did what I did every day. I'd get up, I'd get on choppers, we'd go out, we'd shoot up people, we'd come back in. I'd go out, I'd shoot up things, and I'd come back in. Thing pretty routine, I got used to it. I'd get high, we'd shoot up people, we'd come back in. 4 months into my second tour, we'd go out, like routine. Sitting on the bird, gun on my shoulder, waiting to get in the landing zone. And they give the word that our bird would be lead bird in, the first one. The gunners stand up in the door, they're shooting, blasting. And just as we drop down to go in, they shoot us down. The bird hits the ground, and they throw us out. They throws me out anyway. I'm on the ground bleeding and all messed up. And the last thing I remember about that incident was that I'm on the ground, I'm thrown out, the bird's over here blowing up, it hit the tree, catch fire. And I wake up again. I've been to surgery at a field hospital, mass unit that we had up there. And I'm aboard a C-130 cargo, Air Force. The Air Force takes all the seats and stuff out of the cargo plane during war, and they put the dead and wounded, they stack them in that thing. And they got litters they put us on. And I remember when the flight nurse came, when I woke up, I was screaming for my gun, because the last thing I remember, I was holding my gun. And I was coming from the anesthesia, and I'm yelling for my gun. And the flight nurse comes over and says, we're headed to Japan. You got shot down, this and that. Reminded me. Show you insanity. I said, ma'am, I can't go to Japan. You got to turn around. We got to head back to Vietnam. My intention was to die in Vietnam. The drugs were there, and I was going to stay there until I did them all. That was my plan. It didn't work. And after I went to Japan and stayed there a little while, then they shipped me home. And to fast forward that a little bit, when I got home, life got different. In Saigon, drugs were dirt cheap and everybody had them. In New Orleans, drugs were expensive, and the people who had them would kill you. They played it by different rules. So I got home and I got into the drug scene on the streets there, got on the clinics and all this stuff, and shuffle up to the window every morning at 5:30 for years to get my drink. And I don't know what happened, but one morning I got to the window and I told the nurse, I said, I'm gonna quit this. I'm ready to quit this. I've been on the clinic 3 or 4 years. And she said, okay, we're gonna send you to detox. And they sent me to Gulfport, Mississippi to detox. And it took 3 or 4 months. I detoxed off the drug I was on. And life kept getting crazy, though. You see? The drug was gone, but insanity set in. Now you got a crazy, clean drug addict on your hand. What you gonna do with him? They said, give him more dope, man. Don't let him come out. That's what they ordered. This is where the change starts to happen. They got me off the drug and they sent me out on the economy there in Gulfport and told me to find a job. And I was a Vietnam vet, so they said you will get preference at civil service. And they sent me out and told me to apply for a job. I applied for a job. Nobody would hire me. Then I got a call one day that I had a job. And I was surprised at the call because it came from the Harrison County Sheriff's Department. They wanted to hire me as a deputy sheriff. And I said, interesting stuff. They hired me. They didn't just want to hire me, they did. They sent me to training academy and hired me. I'm a full-fledged deputy walking around Gulfport. Crazy, it's a loon. They said that you will be the officer in charge of the evidence room. I said, okay, it must be God sent. All of a sudden, I'm running the evidence room. One day, my boss come to me and he said, Jared, a lot of the evidence related to substance abuse is not making it to court. I said, I don't know. I'll help you look for it. That's all I knew to tell him, man. He said to me, we're going to reassign you. Okay, so they put me at the assistant warden in the county jail. It's okay. I said, okay. Now, the jail is a dull place. You don't want to go to jail, right? Nobody wants to be sitting up in jail in the cell blocks all day, boring in them. Crazy. I said, I'm going to make this jail rock and roll. And I did. They gave me the charge of the jail, and I had drugs, prostitution, gambling, all kinds of stuff going on in the jail. Guys would come to me and say, Warden, can we get 30 days more? We were living good. Now, if you wanted it, the jail had it, whatever it was. And that went on, I guess, for a year, so I was running the jail. But I'm on the top now, making a lot of money. I got all kind of women, all kind of cars. When I got me a brand new Cadillac. I got an Eldorado Cadillac that was white on white, in white, tucked and rolled. That's what I did. Bought a brim and I wore 3-piece suits in. Everybody had a 3-piece with a vest and all that pinstripes. I'm the warden at the jail with all this. So, one day I come to work. I walk into the work at my jail. And they told me to go to the cell block and look. And I walked in the cell block and my boss, the sheriff, was locked up. Things were about to change. The rock and roll days at the jail were about to come to an end. The sheriff called me over to the cell. He was getting ready to bail out. He said the FBI had pulled a sting operation and they put him in jail. The sheriff had bad habits, you might say. He flew Cessnas as a hobby. He used to fly little aircraft. And the funny thing about flying little aircraft, they didn't mind that, but he would go get cocaine and bring it back with him in these aircraft. So one day, the guy who was sitting in the co-pilot seat was an FBI agent. And when he landed his Cessna in Gulfport Airport, they flashed a badge and they surrounded and they arrested him, right? So I come to work and he called me over to the cell. And he says, The best thing you can do is get out of this town. I said, don't say anymore. That's it. Don't. I'm leaving. And I did. I left town. I left my Cadillac. I left my women. I left my jewelry. And I took one of those pinstripe suits I had to have. Took it with me. And I remember that day when I left. I was out on the highway, on Highway 49 in Gulfport, Mississippi, trying to catch a ride to Hattiesburg. And a trucker picked me up, and he brought me towards Hattiesburg. And he let me out. And I caught a ride to a town called Laurel, Mississippi on Interstate 59. He said, where you going? I said, I think I'd like to get to Meridian, Mississippi, because I knew there was a treatment center there. We used to take prisoners up there for treatment. And I remember I was hitchhiking in Laurel for about 8 hours. Nobody picked me up. When I look back on that time today, April '83, I wouldn't have picked me up. I was in bad shape. That evening, it's April 13, 1983, and it's cold in eastern Mississippi, and I'm on side the highway like this, hitchhiking. And it gets dark and starts to rain. I get in the ditch on side of Interstate 59, and I say, hey, God, look, I tell you what. If you're not gonna help me find a way out of this, take me out tonight. I don't want to get out the ditch. I don't want no more. I got no more hustle. I don't want to run any more game on anybody. This is where the spiritual change starts to happen in my life. I've been hitchhiking 8 hours and couldn't get a ride. I prayed that prayer, and 10 minutes later, somebody stopped. That guy in a little old red pickup truck. He see me in the ditch. I'm not even hitchhiking. He picked me up. He said, I've been sent here to bring you where you're supposed to go. I said, where am I supposed to go? And he says, get in. And I got in his pickup and he drove me to Meridian. He said, ring the doorbell of the treatment center. They're waiting on you. Now, I don't know who that guy was until this day. I wouldn't know him if he was sitting here tonight. He didn't introduce himself. He didn't talk much. All he said was, I've been sent to bring you where you're supposed to go. I ring the doorbell. The nurse says, come on in. We've been waiting. And I started. The nurse said to me, tonight at 7:30, they got a voluntary meeting called Narcotics Anonymous. It's coming in here. And I suggest you voluntarily be in it. That's what she told me. And when they brought the meeting in, that was the first time I'd seen the meeting. It was 7:30 that Monday night. And they brought the meeting. And it was 83. These guys in Mississippi didn't know it was H&I. They just knew that they brought the meeting in, they stayed clean. They understood that much. That night they set us in a circle and they went around the circle and they had the meeting. They got to me and they said, do you have anything to say? I said, yeah, y'all got a problem. I said, I don't belong here. And I went on and cursed and raised all kinds of, I cursed everybody in the room. And at the end of my share, they said, you're in the right place, keep coming back. That's what he told me. And they told me there was a guy in that meeting, every time he shared, he had 10 years clean at the time. His name was Stanley. He was from Jackson, Mississippi. He was in Meridian. Every time Stanley shared, he told my story. I said, Stanley, this program can't work for me. I've been on the clinic in New Orleans for years. He said, I came from the clinics in New Orleans. I said, but I've been to Nam. He said, I flew helicopters. I said, the dude been following me. He said, he's writing down what I do. I'm important. I remember that. And Stanley said, I've been clean 10 years, and I'm going to show you, Jerry, how to stay clean if you want to stay clean. And that was my introduction to a new way of life. That was 34 years ago, people. He told me, he said, I'll tell you what, when you go in the street, they take your clothes and put you in pajamas. They took my clothes and they let you keep your shoes. He said, tonight, when you get ready to go to bed, Jerry, get down on your knees and throw those shoes as far as you can under the bed till they hit the wall. Bang! And while you're down there, say, thank you, God, I'm not using right now. That's what he told me to do. He said, in the morning, when you get up, your shoes are already under the bed. You got to get them, bro. Say, please don't let me use today. He said, that's all you got to do. And then go on the day through the treatment center or whatever you had to do. And that's how I got started. That's how it started to work for me. Now, a lot of things have happened since that time. But my introduction was a guy saying, throw your shoes under the bed and pray. And watch the miracles start to unfold in your life. I want to share with you one day, while I was still working as a deputy, they assigned me and my partner to take a prisoner to the state prison. Put him in the car and take him to the state prison. That's all we had to do. Somewhere along the ride, the prisoner said, I'd sure like to use the phone. And my partner looked at me and said, I'd sure like to smoke a number. So I'll tell you what we'll do. We're going to chain him to a telephone booth and let him use the phone. And me and you, we're going to go around the corner and smoke a number. All right, that's fair. We chained him up to the telephone booth. We smoked a number. 200 miles later, we remembered him. We left him. The sheriff in that county, he came along and saw him there. He said, how did you get it? To 2 officers, on where the prison, they put me here. I guess this prison. So we wouldn't have missed him. We went all the way to the prison, and the guy at the gate said, where's your prisoner? That's when we missed him. And we said, he's back in Hattiesburg at the phone, using the phone. Of course, the sheriff over there took him loose and put him in jail. So we went back to Gulfport where we were working, and my boss, I went in his office. I said, Sheriff, I know, we're friends and stuff, but you got to fire me. I understand that because what I did is unforgivable in this business. He walked up to me, put his arms around my shoulder. He said, man, shit happens. That's what he told me. He said, then his next word, you want to smoke a joint? No consequences. As long as I use and there's no consequences, I'll have no reason to stop using. You understand? The sheriff kept me on that job until they got him and put him in jail. They had to put him in jail to help me stop using. I look back and see that today. My enablers were killing me. I'll tell you, using, being caught in the grip of using. When that drug is calling you, that substance is saying, it's 2 in the morning. I'm standing on Corona Let It Melt for me in New Orleans. That's the hood in New Orleans, in case you don't know. I'm standing there. I'm in the dope house. The man running the dope house said, Jerry, you got to leave here. I said, I don't have no way I can tell you where to go. I told you you had to leave here. Now it's raining, it's cold, the methadone clinic go open for another 3 hours. I sold my shoes in the dope house. I got no shoes, I got no jacket. And he said, you gotta go. You've been there, you know what that feels like. I walk out on the street until the clinic opened, and go inside. I would pay any price. I had to pay. I would go anywhere and do anything I had to do to get the next one. And I came to Narcotics Anonymous and they say, sweep the floor. I say, sweep the floor. Clean up, pick up the chair. At that time, they were smoking in meetings. He said, clean the ashtray. Come on, man. What you talking about? He said, do you remember we found you in the ditch, man? Do you want to go back there? You want to start over? And every time I get it in my head that I've made it and that I'm already on the other side and that everything has worked out, something happened to remind me that it's a climb. It's always a climb. Regardless of how many anniversaries I go to and how many medallions I pick up, it's still a climb every day. Daily reprieve. God says to me on a daily basis, get out and do what you need to do to keep the thing going. Somebody shared at a workshop today how important it was to keep the doors to the home group open. We do conventions, we do parties, we do dances. But the thing that heals the most in this program is one addict sharing with another around a table in a meeting on those days when you say, I can't. When that guy is sitting there saying, I can't do it, man. It ain't working. And you sit there with him until he realizes he can hold on for just another day. And it'll be all right. Then that's watching the program in action. Sponsoring people when you want to say no. Staying late, coming early. Sometimes you got your eye on somebody in the program, opposite sex, same sex, whatever it is. You got your eye on them. And you figure you'd say, after the meeting, I'm going to ask him if I can take him home, give him a ride, get to know him. You got it all made up in your head. And just as they say the serenity prayer, the guy from the halfway house comes over and says, hey, man, give me a ride home. You look at him and you say, hey, man, what's wrong with you? I ain't had none in years, and I'm about to get something. You calling me? But you look at that guy and you say, yeah, man, I'll bring you home. You see? Because you remember what it was like when somebody said that to you. And speaking of that, you see, I used drugs, they were opiate-based, most of them. No interest in the opposite sex. No interest in sex, period, because your mind is elsewhere. You have interest in other things. It got clean. I got clean, stayed clean for 3 months, and things that hadn't worked in years started working. Uh-oh. I'm standing there saying, oh boy, where's she at? I say, who? I say, boy, girl, the family pet, bring me something. I'm asking for it. I got to have some. They say, when the last time you had some? 15 years, man. Where's she at? Where's she at? And that addiction in these rooms did me a lot of damage. I can stand here and tell you tonight that addiction in these rooms, you see, you meet her or him at this meeting, they're not here because they're healthy and well. I'm here because I'm sick. Why is she here? Two sickos will not make a well old. They will not. I'm standing up here tonight because I can tell you that I'm sick. And what happens, the danger of that is that we love the sick ones. The sicker she is, the more I want her. I desire her. I tell you what we used to do. They had a state asylum near where I lived. On Fridays, the girls would get passes to go home for the weekend. I'm standing at the gate. Come on, baby. Be careful, people. Be careful. Now, I'm going to tell you tonight the answer to recovery. The answer to recovery is not between legs, but you will not believe me. When it's me over, you're going to get between the legs and see for yourself. I know that. Be careful in areas like that. That's the disease works at us in so many different ways. We get into shopping. All of a sudden, I got to have a new outfit every day. We get into spending. We get into credit problems. We go crazy. All of a sudden, I haven't been home to help the family or the spouse for years. I've been clean 3 weeks, and now I want to run shit. I want to take over. And then problems in the family and the relationship start. And you wonder where you been the last 15 years? When I really needed you when the kid was small and he was trying to get to the baseball game after school. Where were you? All of a sudden you want to come home and run the show. It don't work, man. It's a simple program. The steps are GPS. GPS is not new technology to addicts. We've had GPS since 1953 when they wrote that first step for Narcotics Anonymous and said, go to the meeting. Follow it and you will do okay on your where you're headed. Get off the path and you're going to have to reroute and reroute and reroute. You're going to run into difficulty. Now life happens for me like life happens for everybody else. I can pick the sick people. I got a job, I was working for the VA. There's a nurse there, and she's a good-looking nurse. You know, and all nurses are good-looking to me, but she was particularly good-looking. So I go over there that night, we get hooked up, and we date for 3 or 4 months, and decide that she's the one and I'm the one. We move in, buy a house in the French Quarter, on the edges of the French Quarter of New Orleans, probably a $250,000 home, and we're both making a lot of money. She's a nurse practitioner, I'm security. We're making $180,000 or $200,000 a year in the house. Money. Buy everything we want, take vacations in Europe, go all over the place together. Hate each other. When it's time to be intimate and we're alone at the house after the parties are over and everybody's gone, she goes to her bedroom and I go to mine. How long do you think that could last? You know, the night of my honeymoon, we get on a cruise boat to go to Jamaica out of the port of New Orleans. We got on the boat, I got married at 11, got on the cruise boat at 1, was locked out the honeymoon suite by 2:30. The chick don't come in here. No, it wasn't my fault. I will tell you that now. What happened was that women at that time had just started to wear the thong bikini in public. So I'm down at the pool taking pictures. My bride is up in the room not understanding at all. 3 months later, we got a divorce. The marriage lasted about 90 days. So I decided then, marriage is not for me. So I haven't been married since. And that was, I think somewhere in the 90s when we tried that. What I'm saying is, as long as I'm looking to fix me from the outside, it's not working. Recovery is an inside-out job. Recovery is an inside-out job. Fix the inside and the outside will take care of itself. And I had to learn that, people. I didn't come in here knowing that. How do you stay clean? Don't use. Go to meetings. Help others. I put those 3 things together and you put another day together. I had been to 25 treatment centers before I found Narcotics Anonymous. They admitted me 25 different times. They kicked me out 24 times of treatment. Treatment did not understand me. You understand? all I wanted to do as treatment was shoot dope and have a place to sleep. They didn't want me in the bathroom shooting dope. So I told them they could have this place. You're not going to help me, I'm leaving. And I went through that cycle. That became a part of my youth. Until I got to Narcotics Anonymous, and somebody said, this treatment can be your last if you want it to be. That told me that I could come back here and you would love me. In spite of all the things that I had done and all the places I had been and all the crises I caused in people's lives, that you would love me anyway. I'll tell you one more story here, and I'm going to sit down. We're sitting down in New Orleans, uptown New Orleans one day, in dope hall. Hot as could be. I never seen it so hot in my life, just hot. Everybody in there just hot, fanning. What the hell, man? Somebody beating on the door. Bam, 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 let me in. We all hot. Ducking, no. I said, man, look, you beat on that door, you can come in here if you want to, it's hot in the mother in here. He said, man, I'm New Orleans Fire Department, the house on fire. Oh, that's what he told me. I said, okay, we're coming out. That's what it'll do for you people. That dope will kill you, I'm telling you. I'll tell you something. It's not all bad things that's happened to me since I've been here. 1996, I'm sitting at my desk for the VA working in Baton Rouge. And a UPS guy comes up to me. He says, I have a letter for Jerry Smith, my last name. And he says, the letter, he reaches me the letter and he says, open it. He says, for you, it's not for the hospital. I was security, so I was used to signing for the hospital. He said, open it. It's for you. I opened it. And the first thing that letter said was, greetings. I said, no, hell no. No. I'm not going back. I'm through with that shit. I reached in the letter, but I did not take it somewhere. No. He said, read the letter, man. I said, I read enough. He said, read it. It said, greetings from the United States. My heart beat. He said, read it. And it said, greetings from the United States Olympic Committee. I, in 1996, had been selected as a torchbearer for the Olympic flame. I'm the one telling the man it's hot to dope out in the fire department. Now you know how you get that honor. When the Olympics are in the U.S., the Summer Olympics, what they do is they send letters to communities because they take it through different cities on the march. It was in Atlanta that year. On the march to Atlanta, they took it through 32 cities in the United States. Baton Rouge was one of those cities. And they select people in those cities to carry it when it passes through. And they selected me. Now, someone in your community has to write the Olympic Committee and convince them that they should select you out of the millions of letters they get. And when he told me that, and I saw the words Olympic Committee, and I looked for the President of the United States, I didn't see it on there, I jumped up, man. And I cried. It was like chill. It was like cold chill takes her. And he said, man, they want me to carry the plane. He said, yeah, man, you got the honor. I didn't tell you all the story of Vietnam, but I had a lot of ribbons. I was high as a kite, and I would do anything. And I'd run into battle, and I'd get people who were wounded and pull them in, all that kind of stuff. But, I did all that. So, as a result of that, I learned a lot of rhythm and Purple Hearts and stuff. And somebody wrote and told the committee about it, and they selected me. But that word greeting scares me till this day. I got a Christmas card, and the first thing the Christmas card said was greetings. I literally would have fired. I said, no, I'm not going, but I know what's over there. I am not going. I want to say thank you to GAPANAC. That's a funny, GAPANAC. Okay. Somebody tell me what that means, what that stands for. Okay. I want to thank you guys for, I want to thank you for taking the time out to invite an old junkie like me to come up here to Anderson tonight and share with you. I consider that the ultimate honor, the ultimate humility, the ultimate thing that could happen for me in this program. To get a chance to tell a guy who's at his first convention or at his first meeting or clean for his first month that this thing does work. You can go where you want to go and be what you want to be. Thank you.